We drove up to the Austrian border. The guard, with a smile on his face, asked for our identification, and my wife and I showed our passport, and he waved us right on through. We crossed into Austria and drove to Innsbruck, where the 1976 Winter Olympics were in full swing. We were cruising in our BMW with my skis on the top, right on the rack on the top. We had no tickets for the venues, but that didn't matter. We wanted to be there in the exciting area, exciting time, and my first Winter Olympic and my favorite part of that Olympic. It was a cold, crisp, beautiful day with a clear blue sky as I looked up at the Patscherkopf. Now, that's the mountain just south of Innsbruck where the venue took place. And I was standing next to the cable car, which I was about to get up on and go up to 7,000 feet, the height of the mountain, and the starting gate. I was headed to the giant slalom race, the downhill fast race, which I'd been looking forward to for a long time. I left my wife at the shopping area and planned to meet her 1 hour later at the coffee clutch, very near the cable car. So I got on the cable car, which carries about 12 people standing up with skis, pretty good size. And coincidentally, the American ski team, the Olympic ski team, 6 of them, and the coach got on with me. So it was me and them, and we talked on the way up. I tried not to interfere with them because they were talking about the race, but they did ask me who I was, and I asked them who they were. They were amateurs, as we were at that time. We didn't have professionals in the Olympics. So we get off at the top, and at the top, I traverse to my position. It has a big sign up there. It says Olympians this way, and the press and the guests go this way. So I went this way, and they went that way from the top. That was the starting gate of the race right there. I was taking pictures. So I took off, I went down, took a few pictures, and then I came around and I hit an ice wall. Number one. Now, what is an ice wall? It is literally and figuratively a wall of ice. And my skis were not sharp. I did not sharpen my skis that day. Dumb. So I started down this ice wall, and it took me a long time. Now, I promised my wife I would be there in 1 hour. And it took me almost an hour just to get down the ice wall because I had to go zigzag down that wall, and it took me a long time. I took a few pictures. I went to down, and suddenly there's another ice wall that I had to navigate. This whole length is about 3 kilometers, pretty good size. That's the length of the race, too, by the way. And every now and then I could hear an occasional cheering of the Olympians 50 meters away. And after that second ice wall, I was finally heading back to the cable car to meet my wife. So I got on this catwalk. Now, what's a catwalk? It's a piece of ice that goes around the mountain. And if you go off the catwalk, you go off the cliff. Well, I'm going down the catwalk, and all of a sudden there's a precipitous turn to the left. And I missed it. I went straight off the cliff. I was flailing along in midair. I kept my ski poles on me. I kept my skis on me. And I was heading off the cliff in midair. And God was good to me that day because he put a tree right there in front of me. Here's a 30-meter ponderosa pine tree right in my path. And I was heading right towards it. Thank God. And I whammed into the tree. I embraced the tree, and it just so happened my right ski, my right leg was on one of the limbs. So I was able to rest, get my breath, and then figure out my strategy to get down off the tree and get down the hill to meet my wife. I was late. So I dropped one ski straight down, and it went into the snow, thank goodness, and it was there waiting for me when I got down. I dropped the other ski down, it hit a limb, and it headed down the hill but a tree stopped it. So I was safe. I had two skis waiting for me when I got down there. So I finally arrived at the bottom to meet my wife where the cable car was and the cantonment area. And I was looking pretty bruised and scratched and disheveled and worn out. And I apologized to the wife. I said, "I'm sorry. I'll explain later." And by that time, we heard a sudden avalanche of a roar of sound crash into the finish area of 60,000 people. And it rebounded all the way up the hill and where we were. And we all knew what happened. The favorite, the Austrian favorite, Franz Klammer, had won the gold medal and had shattered the world record. He was the fastest skier on earth. Now I couldn't wait to read the paper the next day to verify that, because it took me 4 hours to get down that mountain, and it took Franz Klammer 1 minute and 46 seconds to get down that 3 kilometer run. As a matter of fact, it was 3,020 meters, and it was a drop in elevation of about 900 meters. So the next day I picked up the newspaper. Sure enough, Franz Klammer, hometown boy, all over the front of the newspaper. The headlines: wins, shatters the world record, beats number 2 guy, Bernhard Russi from Switzerland. That was the objective in the first place. So that day I learned critical lessons, and I'm going to share those with you. Now that day was the 5th of February, 1976. And I learned, number 1, you keep your ski edges sharp at all times. Number 2, you use a very fast shutter speed when your camera is trying to take a skier going 80 miles an hour. And number 3 is, if God puts a tree in front of you for some reason, embrace it. And finally, never, never promise your wife something that you can't keep. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Ray. And it is now time to give Ray some feedback of what you thought of his speech. So to help us craft that out, I'm going to ask that the